I'm Northwest Arkansas Business Journal editor Paul Gatling. Joining me today is Mack McLarty. He's the vice chair of RML Automotive, chairman of McLarty Companies, both of those transportation related, and the chairman of McLarty Associates, a diplomatic consulting firm in D.C., former White House chief of staff. You got a little bit going on.
Well,
How do you spend your days?
Well, I've been active for a number of years. That's what that says, Paul. It's good to be with you.
You too.
But we're fortunate. We're from Arkansas, still have deep roots here, have our home in Little Rock, our family home's in Hope, but we're fortunate to serve in government when President Clinton was in office, but had worked with President Bush 41 prior to that when I was in the natural gas business with Arkla Gas. So I've been privileged to have a lot of rich experiences, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, we are grateful and thrilled that we could have you stop by and visit with us today about your visit to Northwest Arkansas, wearing your hat with RML Automotive, one of the largest dealership groups in the country, with a sizable presence in Northwest Arkansas. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Just give me an overview of the company, and then we can talk specifically about the newest crown jewel in the portfolio and the dealership up in Bentonville.
I like that formulation, Paul. Thank you. Our family, Paul, has been in the retail automotive business for almost 100 years. Our two sons, Mark and Franklin, are fourth generation participants in their endeavors. Our starting point, birthplace in the dealership business is in Hope, Arkansas, where we still have our dealership there. Hope will always be home. And we'll be 100 years old as a Ford dealer beginning in 1921 in a couple of years. And so we're looking forward to that. So we've had a number of passages over the many years, but RML was a partnership we formed with Bob Johnson. Bob's been a longtime friend. Who was the founder of BET, Black Entertainment Network. Mm-hmm. And we're very proud. We started with one dealership 12 years ago in a partnership with Steve Landers, who had been a competitor but became a partner. He and our son Franklin started the company, and I was supportive of it. They did a great job, and we built it up over the years, and do have now 24 dealerships in 8 states. And we are in the top 25 in the country, but we're by far and away, and we're proud of it in a humble sense, not a bragging sense, to be the largest minority-owned dealership in the United States. Have some great people, good brand diversity, and great footprints in really good markets, including Northwest Arkansas. And as I said today at the grand opening of McLarty Daniel Ford Lincoln, there's just not a better market and more unique setting than Northwest Arkansas. Of course, I'm totally prejudiced. Just so many good things have happened in my life, including getting an education here at the University of Arkansas at the business school, but importantly, meeting my wife of 50 years here at Fayetteville during our time on campus have happened in this part of the world.
She will appreciate you saying that.
Well,
I'm sure.
I've said it before and I mean it. And then we've done a lot of business here over the years with these iconic companies that are located in Northwest Arkansas. Obviously, Walmart. It was a great honor and joy to know and have worked with Sam and Helen Walton, and with Walmart, with J.B. Hunt, Johnny and John L. Hunt, who's such just an exemplary person, a force for good. With Tyson Foods, we were leased Tyson, all of their rolling stock, all of their trucks for many years. Don Tyson, obviously a visionary. Leland Tollett was president of the company during that time. Of course, Johnny's carrying on that tradition now. And of course, the University of Arkansas. So this is just a unique area in so many ways, but it's changed, but it's broadened, but it's I think stayed true to its culture and uniqueness.
Right, well, let's talk about a big change in Bentonville at your dealership there, been going on for about the past year. McLarty, Daniel, Ford, and now Lincoln, which was added to. So now you've got about a $10 million dealership there on Walton Boulevard. Really a unique project. You had to tear away the existing buildings, build up your new, I believe, 47,000 square foot building, but didn't close, maintained operations through that entire process. Now you've got a beautiful facility right there on Walton Boulevard that's the top selling Ford dealership in the state. Is that right?
Thank you. It is. We have bragging rights, but we've worked hard to earn it. And our son Mark's dealership in North Little Rock is the second.
Right.
So there's good competition there, healthy competition.
Yes, I would imagine. Yeah.
But you made it sound easy the way you explained it there, Paul. But it wasn't
Anything
easy.
but, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Our General Manager Jason Ho, who is just a truly outstanding contemporary professional, he and his team just did a superb job of exactly what you said, of maintaining the business, serving our customers, really having a great year. All the while we were constructing the new store on the property. Now, we were fortunate the way it was situated. We could obviously do it in somewhat of a separate fashion, but we're very proud of it. State-of-the-art leadership, but it really underscores our commitment to and belief in Northwest Arkansas and the economy here and the people here. We think it's well placed.
Right. It was about this time a year ago that you doubled your footprint and bought the 3 dealerships from the Everett Auto Group in Saline County. Now you got 6 dealerships, about 600 employees in this market. How has the first year been operationally folding those dealerships into the RML, or integrating those dealerships into the RML family?
It's gone well. We run our business model, and our philosophy is to have pretty decentralized management with a strong general manager, but strong processes and oversight and so forth. So it wasn't as major of integration job as you might think, but our people have done a great job with it. Of course, we've got good brands, and I listed them all this morning, even though we were in the McLarty Ford Lincoln facility there, but McLarty Daniel Chrysler and GMC Buick and Nissan and Chevrolet, and we're proud of all of them. It's kind of like your children. We love them all.
All right, and your man on the ground up here, you mentioned a strong leadership group, Russ Daniel, who I know to be a very civic-minded, civic-oriented businessman in this market. I know that has to be important to you, coming from a 4th generation, retail automotive business, as it were, to have a strong community, civic-minded leader like Russ leading your operations here in Northwest Arkansas.
Paul, thank you for that. I'm standing on the shoulders of my father, and the values of partnership and that trust and integrity you have with your partners is just crucial. And that, of course, then emanates to your people and to your customers. Russ Daniel is a true car guy, a consummate professional, intensely focused, tremendous pride in what he does, built a great team. But you're right, there's legs of the stool. You start with the customer, Sam Walton's rule, the customer's always right. Rule number 10, if in doubt, go back to rule number 1 regarding the customer. Your people, absolutely crucial. And then your manufacturer, your partnership, in this case with Ford and Lincoln. But with that is civic and community involvement, and you just can't build the kind of reputation and brand that you need in the retail business unless you're part of the community. We believe in that. There's a great program they've got tonight where we're going to be feeding the homeless here with a program that Jason Ho put together. That's just one small example, but it's the right thing to do, but it's good business as well.
Right. You talked about doing business in Northwest Arkansas. What is unique about selling cars in this market, in this region, as opposed to some of your other markets where you have operations in? Like you say, you're from Arkansas, you went to school at the U of A. You know the success story that is Northwest Arkansas. Talk a little bit about, from that perspective, of doing business and selling cars in Northwest Arkansas.
Well,
and investing in Northwest Arkansas.
Well, all of that. If you went to school in Fayetteville at the University of Arkansas in the late 60s, it's changed a lot since then, which underscores the explosive growth here, which I talked about many years ago at the Rogers Chamber of Commerce when I was privileged to speak. Congressman Womack was there this morning, as was Senator Bozeman, and we were honored to have them. I think, customers have a lot in common. It's always one sale at a time. You've got to fit the customer's need. You've got to make it easy for them. They've got to feel like they're going to get good service. You've got to build a level of trust. But each market is distinct. Obviously in Northwest Arkansas, you're going to have more pickups and SUVs than you might have in a Washington, D.C. market. So our kind of sweet spot is the larger second-tier markets in a Northwest Arkansas, a Huntsville, Alabama, a Kansas City, Missouri, Shreveport, Louisiana, Columbia, Missouri, Central Arkansas. Those are our kind of sweet spots. So those markets are a little more personal and a little more focused on customer retention. It's not like a metro market where you don't quite have to worry about as much retaining that customer, which in our case really drives you toward customer service and customer relationship.
Right, and you're giving your customers a little bit more of that premium brand, adding the Lincoln franchise, which I think is probably about the first time in 10 or 12 years that they've had a Lincoln option in Northwest Arkansas. So I know you'll probably add some additional customers with that. Well, let's branch out now to a macro view of the U.S. economy, and just kind of a 30,000.
You're zooming out there, Paul.
View.
That's good.
Well,
that's
through
good.
the lens of the auto industry and through the lens of what you do, your business, and what numbers, good or bad, do you tend to focus on as maybe as indicators of where the economy is heading?
Well, first of all, I think your question is right on target. There's really no more international business than the automobile business. If you think about it, not only is it a global business, you've got economies growing around the world, so automobile sales are growing. But if you even think about the ownership, you have Toyota, you have Honda, you have Nissan, you have Italian ownership of Chrysler. So it's very, very international in terms of the industry itself. But I think in terms of the driving factors, clearly the strength of the economy or lack thereof of the market or the country that you're doing business with is a harbinger of really how you're going to do in a particular time period. Interest rates affect automobile purchases. It's a big purchase, likely the biggest purchase you'll make other than your home. But consumer confidence has a lot to do with car buying as well. Now, I think almost all successful dealers have placed a real emphasis on used cars, used vehicles as well, cars and trucks, and we certainly have done that and successfully. So that's part of your mix in terms of payments and so forth. But those are kind of the things that you look at. Of course, Northwest Arkansas has been a very strong, has had a very strong economy, and we think it will continue to be in the years ahead. That's why we're committed to making the investment.
All right. Thoughts on international trade, switching gears a little bit, some that might be relevant to those global companies you talked about, Walmart, Tyson, J.B. Hunt, and even all the way down to the Arkansas soybean and rice farmers.
Oh, for sure.
These are complex issues, the trade tariffs that have been in the news for months. What are some of the complexities of the trade war from an Arkansas perspective?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, Paul, the world is so interconnected. And to me, you can't deny reality, even if you might like to. You just can't. But Arkansas has always been connected to the world, even before the internet and so forth, and internationalization, globalization, as it's called, because of the agricultural base that we've had, beginning all the way back in cotton, soybeans, our cash crops here. And every governor, Republican or Democrat, have focused on those exports to markets outside the United States. We only have about 4 to 5% of the total consumption in the world. So clearly 95% of your market plus is in other markets. But my point is, what happens over there matters here, and what happens here matters over there. In the last 20, 25 years, and we certainly saw it in the Clinton administration in the early 90s, globalization, the interconnectivity was beginning to gain real momentum during that period. And it's only, of course, accelerated with technology and communication. So that's my point about capital flows and the interconnectivity of the world, which goes right to these trade agreements. Critical, absolutely critical for Arkansas farmers, Arkansas companies, but it's not just the big companies, major companies like Walmart and Tyson's, but it's so many smaller companies throughout our state and to Main Street itself.
Right, and to your point, the big goes down to the little. These trade tariffs, they don't just affect China and the U.S. Those are world issues. They don't just affect those two countries.
Oh, there's no question about it. And, I'm not a tariff man. Right. I take a respectful but strong exception with President Trump. I think it's a very blunt instrument. I think it has the potential to be a lose-lose deal. Right. I do commend the president for addressing some of the trade issues. I think he's absolutely right to do so. Right. But I think there may be a more productive way to get to the conclusion or outcome or agreement that we need, although I am guardedly encouraged that we seem to be making some progress with China. Thank goodness there was a successful renegotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement, which I was privileged to be involved in. I remember that agreement was negotiated and signed under a Republican president, George H.W. Bush, but passed and ratified by the Congress under President Clinton. But that renegotiation, new agreement, is a good agreement. It updated some things. I mean, guys, any agreement, Paul, as you well know, you follow business very assiduously and astutely, you have to upgrade agreements. We didn't have the internet and other the world's changed in 25 years. So I think it's a good agreement.
Right. You mentioned the president. Of course, there's no shortage of coverage of his presidency, whether it's his policies, it's his legal problems,
his tweets,
his off-the-field stuff, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So what is it you keep your eye on the most that's maybe most impactful to this president? Or what does the world see from an outside perspective? What do they keep up with the most when it comes to this president?
Well, Paul, that's a big and open-ended question.
Right.
But I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, having the privilege to serve in the White House, that the President of the United States is clearly going to be watched, listened to, and either followed or disagreed with by other world leaders. So there's no doubt that the President and our country still have, without any question, a world leadership role. So words matter. Mm-hmm. Having said that, the international landscape is changing. You've got the rise of China in the middle class. You've got a rise in India. You've got security issues that are different than they were 25 years ago. Russia obviously is much more assertive, even though we thought we had moved past the Cold War period. So all of these factors make it a very complicated and frankly dangerous world. All the more reason for steady, thoughtful U.S. leadership.
Do you think that a Republican should or will challenge the president in the primary this year?
Well, Governor Weld has said he would make a challenge. Whether he will go forward, we'll have to see. It would seem, Paul, just talking kind of raw politics, base politics, that at the moment at least, while President Trump's approval ratings are still not robust, they're okay but not strong, but his approval rating within the Republican Party is still relatively strong, which would probably suggest perhaps not a primary challenge. But I think there's several very respected leaders who at least have indicated they're giving some thought to that, including Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland, who may not be a household word, but was elected and reelected in a Democratic state in Maryland, and has worked successfully with his legislature there on a bipartisan basis. Senator Ben Sasse from Nebraska, a new creative thinker, Republican, conservative Republican, strong on family values. I suspect a lot of things he would say would resonate here in Northwest Arkansas. Strong on community involvement, civic connectivity. Has also kind of hinted he might challenge the president. So I think there's still that possibility, but right now I think President Trump's in pretty good shape with his Republican Party.
Yeah, we'll have to find out if any of those potential candidates have Twitter accounts and millions of followers, right? Well, what about on the other side, the Democratic nomination? I think we now have 15, and we might get close to 20 announced candidates in a field, which is such a stark contrast to 2016 when you had the anointed front runner and Hillary Clinton as that one lane, and then the anointed challenger of Bernie Sanders in that one lane. So those two dominated. Now you've got 15.
Totally different landscape.
What do you make of that? Is that good, bad?
Well, it's reality. The Republicans, of course, had 17 candidates, as I recall it, in their primary, including Governor Jeb Bush, who was the kind of odds-on leader and favorite, a number of other serious candidates, and Donald Trump won the nomination and defeated those candidates one by one, it seemed. So we've only got a 30-minute program or less. I don't think we can go through the entire Democratic candidate list. It's too long. But it's early. It is going to be, I think, a chaotic primary with that many candidates. Everyone's going to be looking for the sound bite and the camera on them and so forth. I hope that does not distract from serious discussion of the issues. I think you will have a pretty clear delineation between a group of progressive liberal candidates, where some of the energy of the Democratic Party is at the moment, to what I would call the more centrist candidates. Governor Hickenlooper would be in that category. Of course, Mayor Bloomberg decided not to run. And there's others in that center lane, including Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota, perhaps former Governor McAuliffe from Virginia. But then you've got Vice President Biden, who right now is probably the towering figure or the larger figure. Whether or not he runs, it looks like that the vice president may well throw his hat in the ring. That will change the dynamics if he does. And then you have Howard Schultz of Starbucks.
Right. The big eye in the field right now.
That's right. Big independent, has the ability to self-finance. has a remarkable narrative, great business success. So Tom Friedman of the New York Times put it well that this was going to be the most unprecedented election of his lifetime and the most uncertain outcome, and I think he's right.
Right. Unprecedented, uncertain. You mentioned chaotic, and also very long. We've still got a long way to go to the finish line.
We do.
All right.
A week in politics is a lifetime.
Right. Okay. We'll leave it there with Mack McLarty. Been a pleasure visiting with you.
Paul,
Thanks
my
very
pleasure.
much.
Thank
Come
you
back
very much.
anytime.
Thank you for having me.
All right. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. I'm Paul Gatling. We'll see you next time.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.